Welcome to Eye Level to High Level, where real talk meets real results. I'm Jimmy Rios, and each week we break down the mindset, money moves, and strategies you need to elevate your life and business. Let's level up. Thank you for joining us. This is Jimmy Rios. Welcome to the Eye Level to High Level podcast. Excited to be here as always. Today we're going to be talking to Memo Loaiza. His real name is Guillermo Loaiza, but he goes by Memo. Memo is a good friend. He's a business partner. I've learned a lot from him over the years, and we're gonna open it up to discussion. We're gonna find out a little bit about what he does, get into a little bit of the grind, what it is to be an entrepreneur, what it is to work in the different fields that he does and excels at. He's also become one of our experts at Rios Business Advisors and one of our partners. So it's exciting to bring somebody that has a wealth of knowledge and information. In this show, we always talk about taking yourself to the next level, elevating yourself. And we built a program called the Eye Level to High Level program because it is about taking us regular folks at the eye level and elevating us to a higher level of consciousness, of mindset, of business ideas. And we can't do it by ourselves. And years ago, when me and Memo started working together, it was the collaborative piece that really made the magic. It was being able to work with him in the fields of life insurance, in the fields of mortgages and real estate and all these things that we talk about. And, I take a lot of pride in my relationships. The Rios Business Advisors was built around the collaborative effort of us working together, right? And that sharing of ideas is, it's like me expounding on all these minds that know more than I do. And it's great to have him here. I'm going to open it up to getting to know Memo as if we had just met. Tell us a little bit. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being a partner and a friend and for being here today. And for those that don't know you, why don't you give us a little background on who Memo is and what do you do?
All right, great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jimmy, for having me on the podcast here, Eye Level to High Level. As you shared, we've known each other for a number of years and worked to collaborate on different projects. And really, I applaud you and your team for what you guys have created because it's, I've seen some of the results. I've seen people talk very highly of it, and I've also experienced some good feedback as well as good experiences working with your team. Very professional, and man, I'm just excited to be here. I mean, part of me is like wondering here, like what can I expand upon other than just sharing more of my story like you had asked and just kind of going where I've been, So my journey started off just being a first-time home buyer, just not knowing anything, just really going through the process as just learning what it is to, what's a mortgage and spell it with G's in mortgage, right? Like things like that. And from there, I ended up, buying my first home. So that experience of my first home really taught me a lot because I actually went through a couple of different people to learn more about the house and learn about the finance and learn about appraisals and things of that sort. So that whole experience just taught me two things. One is that ask a lot of questions, and then that's the first thing. And secondly, get the education, right? Be an advocate for yourself, get the education, take classes. There's a lot of great free home buyer classes out there to learn how to buy the home. And then maybe lastly and most importantly, it's like it's a building block, right? For myself and my family, that trajectory of once I bought my home and where it took me to, it's kind of led me to where I'm at today and results of you build it and why you build it and why I'm so passionate about the real estate and building as well as the finance part behind the building. So those are really great things. I mean, if the last thing I could share besides those three is, I don't know what I don't know, which is great. Because that's why having a collaboration and working with a lot of great professionals has opened up so many doors that is beyond belief.
So you've had how old are you?
49.
Yeah, so we share the same age.
Yeah.
49 years old, and your trajectory in business has taken you through paths where you worked for somebody, and then you became an entrepreneur and worked for yourself, and you've done a mix of both. For those that are listening, that are kind of juggling the working for someone, the thought process of maybe taking that leap into entrepreneurship, right? You having had a taste of both worlds, what can you tell those that are listening out there of, some tips that you can maybe expand on, that for those that are kind of like, I don't know if I should do it, or,
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've heard this quite a bit, and it takes a lot of capital to raise a business, to run a business. And that's partly true. It is true. You got to take a lot of capital, but it takes a lot of your own energy, your own grind, your own, your human collateral of just knowing what you're doing and learning and being open to making mistakes, because there's always mistakes made, nonstop mistakes. Important thing is learning from those mistakes, right? So if there's things that I took from when I was working as, I started off as just an assistant. Literally, I was assistant when I started off, very young. I grew into an area manager. I ran teams for some of the major banks here in town. And then I took the leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. But that journey is almost a 25-year journey just to become my own entrepreneur, right?
Right.
So the risks and the things that are, that I myself follow are just like, listen to your gut, then ask a lot of questions, and then ask other professionals, get that feedback, and then make an informed decision. Because at the end of the day, you're able to control so many things, but there's some things that are out of your control. However, having plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, is just as important as the money that you're looking to spend or even raise when you're running a business.
Right.
You got to be able to expand upon your plans.
You came into this world of You Build It, and I love the name for more ways than one. I mean, it's something about you doing something, right? Expand on that part. What excited you about this concept, and tell us what it is, right? But you came from another area, and all of a sudden you tell me, hey, I got into this business called You Build It. For those that don't know, but that should know, tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Yeah, I'll even give you a little story to that as well, just because back when being in the mortgage industry for so long and knowing trends and seeing where the market goes, I've been through a couple of cycles, as they call it.
Right.
And this last cycle, which was a COVID cycle, the pandemic cycle.
19.
19 through 21, I mean, really brought rates really, really low.
Right.
So knowing that the business goes through cycles, you got to be prepared for the next phase. So I decided, and along with my family, to say, hey, where do we take it from here now that rates have been so low and has provided us a lot of blessings? How do we expand upon that? So that led me to You Build It. But You Build It really started even before the pandemic. What I mean by that is I built my own home, right? So I was a young man, young family, and we're on a tight budget. So 5 kids with a tight budget, right?
Yeah.
So at the time we had a 3-bedroom house, and we needed more because we had 5 kids, and we felt that we could build out more. So when I found You Build It, I found it as a recommendation, and it was a company that specializes in owner builders, basically meaning if you own property, you have a house, you want to build, we can help you, right? Without the need of a general contractor. I have many general contractor friends and contacts, but there's ways you can complete it yourself, almost a self-fulfilled prophecy, meaning you build it, I will build it, right? So I ended up going that route of You Build It and built out really my dream home, a custom home, which I own to this day. I've had that property 30 years, and it's a beautiful property, and that's really got me to You Build It. So when I decided in 21 to really invest into You Build It, it was more of a plan of like, hey, now that I've been in the business, in the mortgage industry for so long, how do I keep my mortgage business running as well as building another business? And that's really what brought me to You Build It. And it's been open now for 4 years, going our 5th year.
Wow.
And we've had a lot of good successes. And like I said, a lot of things have gone another way, but we've come out ahead and continue growing from it.
And see, this was something me and Sylvia, my wife, we talked about. It was like, we have our home now, right? It was one of the homes that the new homes they built in Maricopa, right? And we said, we knew going in, we were taking advantage of the times, right? Because this was right around the pandemic. Rates were extremely low. Yeah. There was a lot of inventory. So it was a perfect storm to get into these, right? But it wasn't going to be our forever home. We knew that too, because our needs over time change, and you have kids, and they're now getting into that age where they're going to go to college and leave the home, right? Mm-hmm. So eventually we wanted to build our own home, right? And tell us about some of the misconceptions or fears that we got to put aside about wanting to go this route, as opposed to just going to a division that already has homes that they're building, or resale homes. Why should someone like Jimmy and Sylvia, who are looking at wanting to build their own home, why should we go that route versus the old school way of doing things?
Yeah, so there's something that's to be said with once you put your own sweat equity into a business. What I mean by that, even your own home or your business, like you're literally building up the value around it, right? So what I found and what I advise clients on about building a custom home is a couple of things. One, and I mean this with all sincerity and honesty, is like, it's not for everyone. It really isn't for everyone. And what I mean by that is we provide you a lot of tools and resources and steps, and even a manual, a step-by-step book, a manual that's about 8 inches binder thick of all the information you need to build your own home. However, at the end of the day, it takes time and effort, and it's going to be upon the individual to really follow the book and follow the guidance given to help complete the project. Now, what I say with that as well is, if you're looking for the greatest investment and biggest return on your investment, the you build it concept and the model really does work, because it allows you to save, because we're a franchise in about 89 territories, mostly in the Midwest and to the East Coast, one here in Arizona with myself, and a couple in California. So we really have a really good model where we are treated like builders. In the construction industry, they know you build it as just being a custom home builder.
Right.
And because of that, we have a lot of great relationships with a lot of big vendors that provide a great pricing and other avenues for us to really provide the savings to the client. Because when the client utilizes our model to help build their own house, like for yourself, Jimmy and Sylvia, like the savings would be in what you're able to save by using our system and following the guidelines and the guidance that's provided through the manual, as well as working with the vendors and contractors we work with, because this provides the biggest savings. However, I do have plenty of clients that do it on their own. Meaning, what I mean by that is that they'll go in, they'll frame it out, they'll cement, they'll drywall, they'll paint, they'll floor themselves, which is an advantage. You're allowed in with the
so
regulations.
You don't have to. I mean, if you have the prowess and the ability to do it yourself, you can literally do it yourself.
Correct.
You can get the people to work as well, contractors, right? So you have the leverage to do it both ways.
Correct. Yeah. I was going to share that the ROC, the registration of contractors, right? They allow you to build one home a year as a primary residence without the use of a GC. So you're allowed to do it here in Arizona. And I found many of our clients are in the trades. Many of them know how to build a home. They just haven't done it themselves. They need the guidance. And what we come in and complement them with is the manual and plus our expertise. I have one of my construction managers on staff, tons of experience, 30 plus years experience, and we just go out there and we tell them and walk them through the projects for them to be most efficient, as well as save money. However, at the end of the day, it is a balance between your time spent on a project. Right. So just to elaborate a little bit more on that, the more time you're able to spend on it, the greater savings. However, you got to be able to then balance that out with the rest of your lifestyle, right? Whatever that lifestyle is, you got to balance it out. However, in terms of the effectiveness and the end result, it's really the best end result, because you get the most equity built into a property when you're saving so much.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen, though, from present clients, past clients that took on this model? What was, there's always misconceptions in going into something, right? And you don't usually know it ahead of time until you go through the fire and make the mistake yourself.
Correct.
Right? For somebody who's a rookie in this game, myself, right, in terms of taking on a project like that, what are some of the mistakes that people have made?
Great question. So some of the mistakes would be really the managing their budget, meaning there's finance involved in terms of helping to plan out and build out the units or build out the home. However, at the end of the day, if you're gonna pay a little more extra for, for some labor job, and then you're gonna pay a little extra for, let's just say for finishes like your sinks, your countertops, your door handles, all the nice finishes, and that's not within your budget. But however, you still decide to do it, because we'll provide the budget, we'll provide you the information. The finance company will also provide you the budget. However, the budget is still going to be under your control of what you want to spend on. And if you go over that budget, you gotta be able to have another plan to recoup the money. Cover the costs or recoup the money another way.
Wife gets excited about those shiny handles and decides to put a different whatever into the living room. Now you all of a sudden, and this happens in general contracting, right?
Yeah.
You go over budget, right? Or in construction, you can suffer from the timelines, right? Like you set the stage that I'm going to move in by October, and here we are, and it's November, December, and you're like halfway through, right?
Yeah.
So managing those aspects is probably very similar. You know?
Very similar.
But probably even more important, because, I mean, there's people that have an endless supply of funds, but most of us don't. And so we have to be very cognizant and conscientious of that budget, right?
That's correct. So, and that's just, one of the biggest things I've run across time and time again. The other part is communication, like not communicating well with the subcontractors, and especially if there's changes made, documenting the changes, because every time there's a change made, there's a potential of a cost involved, which also leads to why there's why you go over your budget, because you made so many changes to the original plan that it takes you over your budget.
One of the biggest fears for my wife is taking on a contractor that doesn't know, says they know, but something happens in the part of the construction and now we can't get a hold of them. Or how does a company like you build it? How do you guys oversee that, so that anybody that is getting subcontracted is responsible and accountable for their actions in the scope of the project?
So all our guys are licensed and bonded and insured.
Nice.
Subcontractors, we only work with those individuals that we recommend. That's another part of managing the budget, because if someone decides to go outside of that and use a subcontractor, maybe is not licensed, has plenty of years experience, but not licensed or bonded, and they, to your point, maybe had some life events and they're not able to complete the work, then all of a sudden then you're going to require another licensed contractor coming in, looking at the project. So that's another hurdle. But the ones we work with, we vet them out. Right. We've been doing this for a number of years, where we can actually say, hey, these are guys that time and time again come through.
Right.
Great team for the electrician, for the plumbing, also for the flooring and other trades. Like great guys that always come through.
Now, when we're talking dollars and cents, compare, I guess, how much of a savings could I feasibly, if I followed everything, right, to the T, how big of a savings could I potentially, is there a range that you could give us, just to get an idea of what it would cost going traditional versus the you build it model? Has there been studies that kind of showcase that?
Yeah, so there's studies that do with the National Home Builders Association show the savings and costs. It's like 23% to 26% savings in comparison to a traditional build with a general contractor.
Really?
23 to 26%.
Which could, in essence, be equity, right?
Yeah,
when you start talking about dollars and cents inside of a cost for a home, we can't control the value, but we know going in what we've put into it. No different than if I'm going to buy this home and I put 20% down.
Correct.
At the very least, dollar for dollar that day, my house is worth X, and I've got 20% equity.
That's correct.
That much, huh?
23 to 26%. That's done
pretty strong.
A few different studies, and then also, to your point about the appraisal value, appraisal value, because they're custom home builds, which is unique in a sense. That's where values tend to be higher with custom home builds.
Custom,
yeah, because they're usually there's
no cookie cutter. It's your build.
Yeah.
It's your so you have a unique floor plan.
Correct.
Right. You pick out all your everything. Right.
Yeah, the floor plan is really. I've had some clients draw it on a piece of napkin, like no jokes. Like, there's a floor plan I want.
And see, that was the reason why me and Sylvia were talking about it, because nothing to take away from our home, but we have a vision, right?
Right.
And when we had a house in Chandler, it had a huge, like, bedroom, right? Master bedroom with a huge walk-in closet. We wanted to, like, have a better bathroom. Like, there was things we wanted to do.
Right.
So we were always like, well, if we could redo our own home, like, we wanted the features of that old bedroom, right, with the added features of, like, what we wanted to custom build. And we couldn't find it in some of the existing homes.
Yeah.
So that's where our mind was around, well, what do we want? How do we want to do it, right?
Yeah, and you could,
and that's pretty cool to know that we could basically, in envisioning something, literally put money in our pockets, 25% or more, and still have our vision, you know? So
absolutely. And we have a design team. So that's why I've had clients say, well, I don't know where to begin. They send at times screenshots from different magazines, or maybe they go online and they send other things that they're finding online. And we're like, okay, I'll send this over to our design team. Our design team is headed up by a gentleman by the name of Isaac, who's also Spanish speaking. So many times when I have clients that are either Spanish speaking, I send them to Isaac, and he's able to communicate with them, and they're able to work together a lot of times virtually and getting things accomplished. And then the final plans are usually the draft is usually done within 10 to 15 business days, which is pretty good.
And this is cool too, because say I'm not ready to move from my house right now, but I'm in the process of wanting to look for a lot, get that design concept going. I don't want to feel pressured or rushed, right? I want to build it and go at a pace, right? Put money into it at the pace that I want to go to. This allows that. This gives me that levity to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. I want to switch gears a little bit. We got 30-minute segments, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit. But today's a special day because we're gonna have you for the 2 segments. So
Absolutely.
So we could take as long or as little as we want to. But in the flow of my notes here, I want to talk about you became an advisor, an expert in Rios Business Advisors, and we share some commonalities from the past in working with mortgages and real estate. And when we developed the vertical for Rios business funding in the real estate arena, right, we saw a very big need because there was a lot of people that wanted to do stuff inside of our program, but were hesitant to touch their first mortgages because many of them had really good interest rates on the front, right, from years ago, right? And they didn't want to touch that 2.5 or 3% interest rate. So we had to start getting creative in touching the asset and being able to work through the asset side and getting creative with other means of financing when it became related to real estate. Right, so we developed the asset management role, and literally appointed you the director of our asset management division for Rios Business Funding in helping us kind of maneuver the waters, not only in real estate but also in SBA, right? And recently, the government is going through their shutdown and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about, how you've helped in guiding and structuring this division, this vertical, with your experience, and why is it so important to have that type of outlet for what we do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I grew up in a finance mortgage business. I mean, I literally from my kids understand all my lingo, the verbiage. They know of everything I've talked about in terms of just the financing piece. So when you had the opportunity, or you gave me the opportunity to kind of be like, hey, I'm good with Rios Business Advisors, this development role on the asset side. I was like, man, this is really, really powerful, because how can we help individuals look at their properties, look at their equity, look at their life, and be like, hey, how can this now be as leverage to help out with what needs to be accomplished on their financial future for their goals and their retirement and whatever else they're looking to accomplish, right? So doing it in a good, safe way, and using reputable companies to make sure that they really can provide a service was crucial.
Yeah.
Another piece of that is really just explain, like, hey, these are the steps that are going to happen. Many times individuals are aware of the different options they have available. However, they may not always understand what those options, what the the pros and cons are.
Right.
So walking each one through those pros and cons is really important.
Yeah.
And ultimately giving them the decision to like, here's some choices. What would you like to choose the choices?
Right.
And then ultimately then saying, hey, this is the best fit for what you're looking to accomplish.
Right.
And then giving them the green light to say, hey, this is what would be recommended, and just being that advocate for them to say that this is going to be accomplished with their goals in mind.
See, that's why we thought of having this role in this division, because traditionally, when we think about let's say an equity loan, right, second mortgage, anything outside of a first, right, as a homeowner, we're very closed-minded. We think, I'm going to pay off my home in 30 years, right? That's how you start, right? But we've been teaching a different mindset inside of owning an asset, because we think about an asset as something that can provide more than just the roof over your head. What I mean by that is, if in the iLevel to High Level program, we develop what we call our third arm of income producing assets, right? Where you have your two arms working your 9-to-5 job, right? Or you have your business producing, doing what it's doing. But we've developed a system where we put assets in the form of capital to work for you. And now you have a third arm of income coming in. So an asset like a second mortgage traditionally is just kind of like having a gold trophy in the corner. You have X amount of equity, but it's not really doing nothing for you. You're not putting it to work to pay off your house faster, to build your business, to get out of debt. Some people will only refinance their home on a second mortgage to get out of debt, but then they get back into debt, right? So it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, right? We've developed an asset column. This is why it's so important, because it's money coming in.
Right.
And eventually that money is going to pay off the burden of debt and do more for you. So better using that asset in the form of a house, right? Now you're using that money that's sitting there, that's potentially appreciating inside the home, to do what? You're getting money every month. You can pay off more towards that mortgage, pay it off sooner, or you can use it to pay off other personal debt or raise the level of your business, right? So now you have your business working smarter, more efficiently, because now you could hire more people.
Right.
You could do more marketing. See, we think differently. It's a mindset change. You're still using the same levers of leverage, right, to be able to do things, but you're using it in a smarter way. And that's where the advantages of having an expert like you come, because when we come into scenarios, case studies, right, it's very difficult sometimes to put these together. It's not like calling your bank and saying, hey, I need an equity loan. We put your credit and you're over leveraged. You don't have enough credit score. There's all these little variables that can make or break a deal. And the reality of things is that if we shoot too many bullets, we're going to run out of bullets. And those are called inquiries on your credit, right? Now you go backwards and then you don't get nothing. Nothing gets done, right? So what better way to work that angle is to work with an expert, an advisor that understands the nuances of what we're looking at, and be very realistic in looking at the scenario and saying yay or nay. And that's what we bring to the table, working with an expert like Memo that can basically put all the pieces of the puzzle together for us and helping us to see how we can find that solution, right?
Correct.
So before we break to our next segment, give us like a word of wisdom that you can give to those out there that are, homeowners or potential homeowners, or people that are entrepreneurs that are, sitting on maybe equity or something. That give us something to take us out, and then we'll come back and we'll start on another topic.
All right. I appreciate that. So words of wisdom would come down to look at all your assets, combine them all together. Look at what you have, all your, even though it would become considered more like a income flow, saying these are all the things I have on the table that I bring as income that are assets, whether if it's liquid or maybe it's building up some equity, but all these different tools that you have available, and then come up with a way to say, how can I use these tools to help create even more? Because the options of paying off debt is always going to be the option and the goal, but how can you pay off debt as well as increase income? So working both, to Jimmy's point, both the mindset of like, hey, this asset that I hold is also going to generate income while I'm paying it off.
Right.
Like, how does that marriage work and what does it look like? But you got to know what your tools are. You got to know what you have and be ready to discuss that, to be like, this is what I have ready to make it happen.
I love it. So don't think think universal. Think this way. Don't think so linear, because a lot of people, when I ask them, how much income do you get? Oh, they only tell me one thing. Or how much do you have in savings? Or, there's so much out there that you don't even know that is possible. But you live in this world where you say, well, I can't touch that. Maybe a 401k, or I have an IRA or a life insurance policy, and you think you can't use those tools, and there's a lot of things we can do. So we're gonna break. I want everybody to take themselves to the next level in their life, in their mindset, in everything that they do. We're gonna help you get there through the I Level to High Level program. Thank you for being a part of this universe that we work in, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Keep going up. Thank you, Memo. Thanks for tuning in to I Level to High Level. If you're ready to rise above the average, subscribe, share, and follow us for more ways to take your grind to greatness. Until next time, keep pushing higher.